Hey guys, so in this video I'm going to be talking about the state of the market, this big pullback we had on Friday, and where we could go next. Um, so yeah, obviously we had this huge pullback on Friday, which was about nearly 2% drop, and obviously we've been trading in a range. We had this week, which was tariff, which dropped the market. I mean, this was DeepSeek, sorry. We had another tariff news, drop the market, and another tariff news, drop the market. And then we finally broke above these, made all-time highs, and then we just dumped again. So now the question really is for investors and for people is this the start of something big, and are we going to continue to go down, or is this just a steep pullback? And in my opinion, there's many reasons why we could continue to go down. I can't really find many strong points as to why we will continue rising. Obviously long term there are some, but I'll go over. These are like key swing points, which I'll get to. Now, if we look at the fear and greed index, obviously we are in a fear. A lot of people, that is the sentiment of the market right now. It's not like it's all good jolly times to be cheering, especially with Trump coming in now and putting all these tariffs. There's a lot of uncertainty in the market, and in America and around the world. So it's very fearful, and there's no reason for investors to just kind of be so optimistic and kind of just be buying stuff up. And if we look at one of the best investors in the world, Warren Buffett, his cash pile, he's been slowly over the years trimming and slowly getting out of his positions, and holding this huge cash pile. Obviously the last time he did this was in 2008, and after that, boom, we had that crash. So again, he could be building up for something big. And obviously a lot of people are saying, oh, okay, we are going to have this sort of 5 to 10% correction. Some people are even saying 20% correction, but a correction like that would be huge. I'll show you how it looked like from here. A 5% correction would send you around here, which is quite bad, but we could hold that. I could see this happening, but a 10% correction would send you, around here, which is quite very deep. For a lot of investors, it'll hurt. This would hurt, a lot of people. Look at this last week, and if we look at the S&P 500 map, let's just look at what it did for Friday. Huge red, everything was in the red, so it was a bad day. So having a big correction will hurt a lot of pockets. Now, what could change it? That's what we'll get into next. And if we look at the last time we had a huge 10% pullback, it was this pullback right here. And what's interesting is, if you ask yourself why we had this pullback, it was because of fears of, the US economy weakening. Once we found out that the economy is strong, eventually we start to rise back up again. But this right here, fears of economy weakening and stuff, sent 10% down. So could this be the start of another big pullback, 10%, 5% range, sweep these lows and maybe come into here before going back higher? And if we do get into here, this will be an amazing entry point to then get in for longs. So yeah, let me just clear these tabs, and get into the reasons why I think we can continue going down and what the turning point will be. Now, if we look at something like Walmart, obviously Walmart stock dropped a huge amount since its earnings, and the main reason was the earnings were fine, but it was the comments made, because these earnings of Q4 2024, they didn't cover tariffs. So now that Trump's in charge and we've got tariffs and all this stuff, now this is when it's going to come into account. And obviously these earnings in May are going to show January, February, March. And obviously if you see what has Trump done in the last week and even in past month, I'm sure you've seen he's done a lot, and he's said things, he's put tariffs, he's put threats. So there's a lot of things he's done, and now it's what I want to see is how that has an impact on the market, because all these earnings, yes, they were good. We've had for and for all these companies, Meta and whatnot. Yes, they were good earnings, but now we want to see, okay, how do the tariffs have an effect on the companies, um, and if these tariff threats and everything he's saying and doing, have an effect on something like Walmart, to where people, they don't really want to spend as much money. They're kind of fearful. They don't really want to spend as much as they were spending, you know, uh, 2 3 months ago. That will have a big impact on the market, and if that happens, and we see a reduce in consumer sentiment and wanting to buy, and a reduction, for me that will really send the market lower, and that will be the reason for the price and markets to continue dumping. But if these earnings do show that, okay, people don't really care about what Trump says. Americans are still spending big money. They still go shopping and get what they want. And, there's not really like a fear in the environment, as to the fear in the market. Then that could be a very nice turning point for us to send and shoot up higher. But like I was saying, and what I think will happen is, if the next earnings for Q1 of 2024 are very bad and do show, this fear in the, in the environment, and people are fearful, that could be a catalyst to send a lot of stuff lower, and have that huge correction in the market. Which that's pretty much what I want to be waiting for. Because like I said, the last big pullback we had, which was a 10% pullback here, was because of a fearful, people were fearful that the economy is weakening and that the American economy is getting weaker. So if that's what sent that, a 10% drop, fears of more tariffs and have that having an effect on companies, will have a big drop and a big effect on the market. So that's why I'm saying that's the next thing to watch. Obviously, yes, we do have a few months, but we want to see how Trump plays out, what he does, and obviously the earnings will be a reflection of everything he does. So that's pretty much what I think will be the catalyst for the year. Once we do get those next up earnings, and if we go to around March, it'll be April, May times when you get that stuff. Again, so like I'm saying, if these companies, maybe not so much Meta and stuff, but more the companies like the ones that are consumer based and are more like tied in with the economy, they will have a huge effect if that shows that the Trump tariffs and even the threats that he's saying have an effect. If Trump is saying, I'm going to impose a tariff and make things more expensive, and that's having an effect on a company, that they have to raise prices, or they're not sure what to do, or people don't really want to spend there anymore, then, and that shows in these reports, that's gonna be huge for these companies, and if it shows that regardless of what Trump says, and even though he's putting out all these tariffs and threats, we still want to pay, then I think that would be amazing news for the market, and just send it for that huge rally for the rest of the year. Obviously, we do have more earnings and stuff, but that's just my opinion on what I think. Obviously, it's not financial advice to buy or sell, but that's what I think will happen, and that's the sentiment in the market. So for me, I'm not really looking for anything or any opportunities, and if you was to be, you would want to look in that sectors that are not really affected by tariffs, stuff that tariffs, whatever he wants to do, it doesn't have such an effect on companies like that, because stuff like Walmart and those consumer based stuff, even car companies, those are going to have a huge effect if there's all these tariffs and this and that. So yeah, that's why you don't just want to put all your eggs in one basket and just invest into tech, or invest into this, or invest into that, because if that sector has a bad year or it fails, your whole portfolio is going to be down. I know too many people who all they buy is tech stocks. So since tech, if tech's not performing, their whole portfolio is going to be down. You want to diversify as much as you can, and have some tech, some consumer, some this, some that, and then we'll see. and Amazon as well. You know, if those tariffs and show fear, and the inflation will keep rising in America. So if that shows that that's going to weaken the economy and cause many fear, then it could be a huge correction we get. So it's best to just stay on your toes, keep alert. Um, those are my main reasons. Pretty much the earnings, and no one's really talked about it yet. But that is my opinion. Because if these earnings show that the companies are underperforming, then I can see a big catalyst to send the market lower. But if they show resilience and that they, people still are paying and there's still earnings growth, then we could see a huge rally. But again, if the companies show there's a lack of earnings growth, then it could be very negative for the market. So yeah, I'll catch you guys in a few months or next week when we see where the market's at. So yeah, see you guys next time. Peace.